The stone struck her temple before she could raise her hand to shield herself. Blood trickled down the side of Scarlet Grimrose's porcelain face, warm against her winter-white skin. But she did not cry out. She never did. In the center of the pack square, surrounded by angry faces twisted with fear and rage, the young Omega stood alone, her white hair catching the dying light like freshly fallen snow stained with accusation. "Another child is sick," they shouted. "The crops have withered. The river runs foul. All because of you. All because of the cursed one." Scarlet's silver eyes remained downcast, fixed on the dirt beneath her bare feet. She had learned long ago that meeting their gaze only fueled their hatred, made them see the curse they believed lived inside her. She was 17 winters old, and for 17 winters, she had been the scapegoat for every misfortune that befell the Grimwood pack. Born under a blood moon with hair as white as death itself, the elders had declared her cursed before she had taken her first breath. And the pack, desperate for something to blame, had clung to that declaration like a drowning man clings to driftwood. The crowd pressed closer, their voices rising in a crescendo of condemnation. Scarlet felt her knees begin to buckle, felt the familiar weight of shame and isolation crushing down upon her chest, stealing the air from her lungs. She wanted to tell them she was sorry. Sorry for being born. Sorry for existing. Sorry for whatever cosmic mistake had brought her into a world that had no place for her. Then the air shifted. It was subtle at first. A change in pressure. A sudden chill that had nothing to do with the autumn wind. The crowd's angry chanting faltered, then fell silent. Scarlet felt it before she saw it. A presence so powerful, it seemed to pull the very oxygen from the atmosphere. Her heart, already racing with fear, began to pound for an entirely different reason. Alpha King Leonidas Moonbane had arrived. She did not need to look up to know he was there. Every wolf in the territory could feel the weight of his dominance, the raw, primal authority that radiated from him like heat from a forge. He was the ruler of all packs in the northern realm, a warrior king whose name was spoken in whispers, whose reputation for ruthlessness and strength preceded him like thunder before lightning. The crowd parted like water before the prow of a ship. Scarlet finally raised her eyes, and her breath caught in her throat. He was a mountain of a man, easily towering over every wolf present, his broad shoulders draped in a cloak of black fur that seemed to absorb the light around him. His long, raven black hair fell past his shoulders, wild and untamed, framing a face carved from granite and shadow. A thick beard covered his jaw, and his eyes, those eyes, were the color of molten amber, burning with an intensity that made her want to look away and yet held her captive. He was terrifying. He was magnificent. And he was looking directly at her. Leonidas had been traveling to the Grimwood pack to address reports of unrest and failing harvests when he sensed the gathering in the square. What he found there ignited a rage in his chest so profound it took every ounce of his legendary control not to shift and tear into the crowd of cowards surrounding a single trembling Omega. Before we continue with the story, tell us where you're watching from and how old you are. I hope you enjoy the story, but it was not rage alone that flooded his system as he drew closer to the white-haired girl. It was recognition. His wolf, the ancient beast that lived beneath his skin, surged forward with a force that nearly brought him to his knees. Mate. The word thundered through his mind, primal and absolute. Mine. Leonidas had ruled for 15 years without a mate, without even the desire for one. He had built his kingdom on strength and steel, on the fear he instilled in his enemies, and the loyalty he commanded from his people. He had convinced himself he needed nothing more than power and purpose. He had been wrong. The Omega before him, bloodied and bruised, with her luminous white hair and silver eyes that held depths of sorrow he could scarcely fathom, was his, and they had been hurting her. His voice, when he spoke, was a low rumble that seemed to resonate in the bones of every wolf present. What is the meaning of this? The pack's beta, a scarred man named Tormund, stepped forward, bowing low. Your Majesty, we did not expect you. We were merely dealing with the cursed one. She brings misfortune to our pack. The sickness, the failing crops, it all began when she was born. Leonidas's eyes never left Scarlet. He watched as she flinched at the words, as her small frame seemed to fold in on itself, trying to become smaller, invisible. Something in his chest cracked at the sight. And what proof do you have of this curse? Tormund hesitated. The elders have said so, my lord. She was born under a blood moon. Her appearance itself is unnatural. Superstition and prejudice. Leonidas took a step forward, and the crowd instinctively retreated. I see only a young woman being abused by those who should protect her. He moved through the circle until he stood before Scarlet, towering over her. And gently, so gently it shocked everyone watching, he lifted her chin with one calloused finger. Her skin was soft as silk beneath his touch, and up close he could see the delicate pattern of silver freckles across her nose, the way her lower lip trembled with fear, and something else, something that looked dangerously close to hope. Look at me, he commanded softly. Scarlet obeyed, though it terrified her. She met those burning amber eyes and felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She had never been this close to power, to barely restrained violence wrapped in the guise of a man. She should have been afraid. She was afraid. But beneath the fear was something else, something warm and unfamiliar that spread through her chest like honey. What is your name? His voice had gentled even further, a tone no one in the crowd had ever heard from their king. Scarlet Grimrose, your Majesty. Her voice was barely a whisper, hoarse from years of silence. Scarlet. He repeated her name like a prayer, like something sacred. Then louder, so all could hear. This woman is under my protection. Anyone who lays a hand on her, who speaks a word against her, will answer to me personally. Is that understood? The crowd murmured their assent, confusion and shock rippling through them like wind through wheat. Tormund dared to speak again. But your Majesty, the curse. There is no curse. Leonidas's voice was iron now, brooking no argument. There is only cruelty and ignorance. And it ends now. He removed his heavy fur cloak and draped it around Scarlet's shaking shoulders. The garment swallowed her small frame, and she clutched at it instinctively, breathing in the scent of cedar and smoke, of something wild and masculine that made her head spin. Come. He held out his hand to her. You will not spend another night in this place. Scarlet stared at his hand, as if it were a venomous snake. She should refuse. She should warn him that touching her brought only ruin, that everyone who had ever shown her kindness had suffered for it. The words formed on her tongue, but before she could speak them, he did something that shattered every wall she had built around her battered heart. He smiled. It was a small smile, barely a curve of his lips beneath that dark beard, but it transformed his fierce face into something almost gentle, something that made her chest ache with a longing so intense it frightened her. I am not afraid of you, Scarlet Grimrose, and I will not leave you here. Her hand, small and pale, slowly rose and slipped into his. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong and impossibly safe, and for the first time in her 17 years of life, Scarlet felt something she had never dared to feel before. She felt protected. Leonidas felt the jolt of electricity the moment their skin touched, the rightness of it singing through his veins. He wanted to gather her into his arms, to carry her away from this place that had brought her nothing but pain. But he sensed her fragility, the way she held herself together with sheer force of will. So instead, he simply held her hand and led her through the parted crowd, his presence a shield against the stares and whispers. They walked in silence to the pack house where he had been offered lodging, and with each step, Leonidas felt his wolf settling, content for the first time in years. His mate was beside him, damaged certainly, afraid, undoubtedly, but alive, and now, under his protection. Inside the modest room he had been given, Leonidas finally released her hand and turned to face her. In the lamplight, she looked even more ethereal, her white hair seeming to glow with its own inner light, her silver eyes wide and watchful. "Sit." He gestured to the chair by the fire. "You are injured." Scarlet remained standing, clutching his cloak around her like armor. "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why are you helping me?" Leonidas crossed his arms over his broad chest, studying her. "Because they were wrong to treat you that way. Because I do not tolerate cruelty in my kingdom. Because—" He paused, unsure how to explain the pull he felt toward her, the absolute certainty that had flooded him the moment he saw her. His wolf prowled restlessly beneath his skin, wanting to claim her, to mark her, to make the world understand that she was his and under his eternal protection. "Because I think you have been alone long enough." The words hit Scarlet like a physical blow. Tears welled in her eyes, and she turned away quickly, not wanting him to see her weakness. No one had ever acknowledged her loneliness, had never cared enough to see past the curse they believed she carried. "You should not," she began, her voice shaking. "You should not be kind to me. I am cursed. Everyone who cares for me suffers. My mother died giving birth to me. The woman who tried to help raise me fell ill and perished. I bring only misfortune." Leonidas moved closer, drawn by the pain in her voice. "I do not believe in curses. You should." Scarlet turned back to face him, her silver eyes blazing with a desperate intensity. "You should stay away from me, Your Majesty. I am poison to anyone who shows me affection. I do not deserve kindness. I do not deserve love." The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Scarlet's breath hitched. Yes, especially that. Leonidas took another step toward her, and then another, until he stood close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. The firelight danced across his features, highlighting the sharp planes of his face, the intensity in his amber eyes. "What if I told you that I do not care about curses or superstitions? What if I told you that from the moment I saw you standing in that square, bloodied but unbroken, I knew something I have never known before?" Scarlet's heart hammered against her ribs. "What? That you are mine to protect, mine to cherish, and I do not abandon what is mine." The words should have terrified her. They came from a man known for his ruthlessness, his iron control, his absolute dominance. But the way he spoke them, with such gentle conviction, such unwavering certainty, made something inside her fracture. "I am nobody," she whispered. "I am nothing." His hand rose to cup her face, his palm warm against her cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear she had not realized had fallen. "You are everything." And then, because he could not resist the pull any longer, because his wolf demanded it, and his heart agreed, Leonidas lowered his head and pressed his lips to her forehead in the gentlest kiss imaginable. Scarlet froze, every muscle in her body going rigid with shock. No one had touched her with tenderness since she was a small child. No one had ever looked at her the way this fierce king looked at her now, as if she were something precious, something worth fighting for. The dam inside her broke. She collapsed against his chest, sobs racking her small frame, years of pain and loneliness pouring out of her in great, heaving waves. And Leonidas, the alpha king who made grown warriors tremble, the man who had conquered territories and crushed rebellions, simply wrapped his arms around her and held her as she wept, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other pressed against her spine, keeping her together as she fell apart. "I have you," he murmured into her hair. "You are safe now. I have you." They stayed like that for a long time, the fire crackling beside them, the world outside forgotten. And for the first time in her life, Scarlett allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was not alone anymore. When her tears finally subsided, Leonidas guided her to the chair and knelt before her, his large frame somehow making the gesture seem natural rather than subservient. He examined the cut on her temple with careful fingers, his jaw tightening with barely suppressed rage at the injury. This will scar if not treated properly. He rose and retrieved a clean cloth and a basin of water from the washstand. I will not have that. As he gently cleaned the wound, Scarlett studied him, this contradiction of a man. He moved with the precision of a warrior, yet his touch was impossibly gentle. His face was hard as stone, yet his eyes held a warmth she had never expected. "Why do you care?" she asked again, needing to understand. "You do not know me." Leonidas paused in his ministrations, meeting her gaze. "I know enough. I know that you have survived 17 years of cruelty that would have broken most wolves. I know that despite everything, you still have kindness in your eyes. I know that when I look at you, I see strength, not weakness. I see beauty, not a curse." He resumed cleaning her wound, his voice dropping lower. "And I know that my wolf has chosen you as my mate, and I do not question his judgment." Scarlett's eyes widened, shock rendering her speechless. "Mate? But I am an Omega. You are an Alpha King. That is not. It cannot. It is. It can. It will." His tone was absolute. The bond does not care about rank or status, or the foolish superstitions of frightened wolves. It cares only about the truth of two souls recognizing each other. Scarlett felt dizzy, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was saying. She wanted to believe him, wanted to accept the impossible gift he was offering, but fear held her back, fear of hoping for something that would inevitably be torn away. "I will hurt you," she whispered. "The curse will take you from me. Then let it try." Leonidas finished tending her wound and settled back on his heels, his amber eyes burning into hers. "I have faced down rogue alphas and hostile packs. I have survived battles that should have killed me. I do not fear a curse, Scarlett. I fear only a life lived without you in it." His words were a vow, a promise, and Scarlett felt something shift inside her, something that had been frozen beginning to thaw. Over the following days, Leonidas did not leave the Grimwood Pack territory. Instead, he took up residence in the pack house and began investigating the claims of Misfortune. What he discovered enraged him. The crop failures were due to poor soil management and a beta who had been embezzling funds meant for proper fertilization. The illness spreading through the pack's children was a simple respiratory infection made worse by the cramped, poorly ventilated conditions they lived in, conditions that had been neglected for years. The polluted river was the result of an upstream pack dumping waste without consequence. Every single misfortune blamed on Scarlett had a rational, mundane explanation. He called a pack meeting, his presence on the raised platform commanding absolute silence. Beside him stood Scarlett, still wrapped in his cloak, still trembling but standing taller now, her chin lifted in defiance rather than bowed in shame. "I have investigated your claims of a curse," Leonidas announced, his voice carrying across the assembled wolves. "And I have found them to be nothing more than convenient lies told to excuse your own failures." He detailed each discovery, watching as shame and realization began to dawn on the faces of the pack members. Some looked horrified at what they had done, at how easily they had condemned an innocent girl. Others still clung to their prejudice, their fear of change stronger than their capacity for reason. The Beta Tormund was one of the latter. "Your Majesty, with respect, the girl is unnatural. Her appearance alone." "Careful." The single word was a growl, a warning that had Tormund's wolf whimpering in submission. "You speak of my mate." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Scarlett's hand found his, her fingers threading through his in a gesture that sent warmth flooding through his chest. But before the pack could fully absorb this revelation, something happened that would change everything. An elder woman stepped forward from the crowd, her face weathered with age, her eyes milky with cataracts. But despite her apparent blindness, she moved with purpose, her gaze fixed unnervingly on Scarlet. "I must speak," she rasped. "I must tell the truth I have carried for too long." Leonidas tensed, his body moving instinctively to shield Scarlet. But the old woman raised a placating hand. "I mean her no harm, young king. I come to free her from chains that should never have bound her." The woman reached them, and with trembling hands she reached out to touch Scarlet's face. The young Omega allowed it, something in the old woman's demeanor speaking of truth rather than threat. "Your mother," the elder began, her voice breaking. "Your mother was my daughter, and when you were born under that blood moon, when I saw your white hair and silver eyes, I knew what you were. Not cursed, child, never cursed." "Then what?" Scarlet breathed, hope and fear warring in her chest. "Blessed. You were born a moon child, blessed by Selene herself. Such children are born only once in a generation, and they carry great power, the power to heal, to unite, to bring prosperity. But power frightens those who do not understand it, and the other elders, they feared you. So they twisted the narrative, called your blessing a curse, convinced the pack that you were the source of their troubles rather than their potential salvation." Scarlet felt her knees weaken, and Leonidas's arm immediately wrapped around her waist, holding her steady. "A blessing? All these years you have been blamed for something you never were." The old woman's face crumpled with grief. "I should have been stronger. I should have fought for you. But I was weak, and I let fear guide me instead of love. Can you ever forgive this old fool?" Scarlet was crying again, but these tears were different, cathartic rather than anguished. She reached out and embraced her grandmother, and the old woman sobbed into her shoulder, 17 years of guilt and regret pouring out. Leonidas felt his rage transform into something colder, more calculating. He turned to address the crowd, his voice deadly calm. "For 17 years, you tortured an innocent girl based on lies and fear. For 17 years, you denied yourselves the very blessing that could have made your pack prosper. Your true curse was not Scarlet Grimrose. Your true curse was your own ignorance and cruelty." He paused, letting his words sink in. "From this day forward, Scarlet is under my direct protection as my mate and future queen. Any wolf who wishes to seek her forgiveness may do so, but she owes you nothing. The choice is hers alone." Scarlet stood beside him, her white hair lifting in the breeze, and for the first time in her life, she did not shrink from the attention. Instead, she looked out at the pack that had tormented her, and she made her choice. "I forgive you." Her voice was soft but clear, carrying a strength that surprised even herself. "Not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to carry your hatred in my heart any longer. But I will not stay here. This place holds too much pain." She turned to Leonidas, her silver eyes meeting his amber ones. "If you will have me, I would go with you." His smile was radiant, transforming his fierce face into something breathtaking. "I will have you, Scarlet Grimrose, today, tomorrow, and for all the days that follow." They left the Grimwood pack the next morning, Scarlet riding beside Leonidas on his massive black stallion, her grandmother accompanying them. The old woman had begged to spend what remained of her years making amends, and Scarlet, with her impossibly kind heart, had agreed. As they traveled north to the capital, Leonidas began to court his mate properly. Despite the intensity of their bond, despite the undeniable pull between them, he did not rush her. He knew she needed time to heal, to learn to trust not just him, but the world itself. The journey would take 3 weeks, traveling through forests thick with ancient trees and meadows that rolled endlessly toward distant mountains. Leonidas had insisted on a slower pace than he usually traveled, claiming he wanted Scarlet to see the kingdom she would soon help rule. But the truth was simpler. He wanted time with her, time to learn every nuance of her expressions, every shade of emotion that crossed her face. Each morning, before Scarlet woke, Leonidas would rise with the dawn and walk through whatever landscape surrounded their camp, searching for the perfect flowers to bring her. Sometimes they were wildflowers, brilliant splashes of color against green grass. Other times they were more exotic, blooms he would find near streams or tucked into rocky crevices. He always chose white ones when he could find them, wanting her to see beauty in the color she had been taught to associate with her supposed curse. On the 3rd morning, Scarlet woke to find him sitting beside her bedroll, watching her with those intense amber eyes, a handful of white lilies cradled in his large hands. "You do not have to do this," she whispered, her fingers reaching out hesitantly to touch the delicate petals. "I am already yours. I know." His voice was soft, intimate in the quiet of dawn. "But you deserve to be courted, Scarlet. You deserve to know what it feels like to be pursued, to be wanted, to be cherished. Everything you should have had and did not, I want to give you now." Tears gathered in her eyes, and he gently brushed them away with his thumb. "No more tears, my heart. Or at least let them be happy ones." "They are," she assured him. "I promise you, these are happy tears." During the days, as they rode, Leonidas would tell her stories. Stories of the wars he had fought to unite the fractured packs of the northern realm. Stories of the warriors who served him, their bravery and their sacrifices. Stories of the land itself, of ancient legends and old magic that still lingered in certain places. Scarlet drank in every word, fascinated by this world beyond the narrow confines of the Grimwood Pack. She asked questions, her natural curiosity emerging, now that she felt safe enough to express it. And Leonidas answered each one with patience, clearly pleased by her interest. But it was the evenings that became most precious to both of them. After they had made camp and eaten dinner prepared by the small guard contingent that traveled with them, after Scarlet's grandmother had retired to her tent and the guards had positioned themselves at a respectful distance, Leonidas and Scarlet would sit by the fire and slowly, tentatively, they would share pieces of themselves. "Tell me about your childhood," Scarlet asked one evening, wrapped in a blanket against the chill, her shoulder pressed against his arm. "Before you became king, what were you like?" Leonidas stared into the flames, his expression distant with memory. "I was angry. My father died when I was young, killed in a territorial dispute by a rival alpha who wanted to claim our lands. My mother did her best, but she was not strong enough to hold the pack together. By the time I came of age and could challenge for the alpha position, we had lost half our territory and 3/4 of our pack to either death or desertion." His jaw clenched, the firelight casting harsh shadows across his features. "I was 15 when I killed the alpha who had murdered my father. I took back our lands and began rebuilding our pack. But I was hard, unforgiving. I had learned that mercy was often seen as weakness, that compassion could be exploited. So I became what the world seemed to demand, a warrior with no softness, a leader who ruled through strength and fear." He turned to look at her, his eyes searching hers. "I built an empire on those principles, Scarlet. I united the packs through conquest and intimidation, and I told myself it was enough, that power and respect were all I needed. But the truth was, I was lonely, surrounded by hundreds of wolves, and utterly alone." Scarlet reached for his hand, threading her fingers through his. "You are not alone anymore." "No." He brought their joined hands to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "I am not." You have given me something I did not even know I was missing. A reason to be more than just a warrior. A reason to build a kingdom worth living in, not just surviving in. And you, he continued, turning her hand over to press a kiss to her palm. You have given me the greatest gift of all. You have shown me that strength and gentleness are not opposites, that I can be both the king my people need and the man my mate deserves. Scarlet felt her heart swell with emotion. I see you, Leonidas, all of you, the fierce warrior and the gentle lover, and I love every part of you. He groaned softly and pulled her into his lap, cradling her against his chest. You undo me, Scarlet Grimrose. You make me want to lay the world at your feet, to slay every dragon and conquer every kingdom, just to see you smile. She laughed, the sound light and musical, and she tilted her head back to look at him. I do not need the world. I just need you. His kiss was gentle but passionate, reverent but hungry, and when they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, he rested his forehead against hers. Soon, he promised. Soon I will make you my queen, and then nothing, not fate, not the gods themselves, will be able to separate us. Another night, Scarlet gathered the courage to ask him about his reputation, about the stories she had heard even in her isolated existence. They say you once fought 12 alphas at once and emerged victorious, she said quietly. They say you have never lost a battle, never shown mercy to your enemies. Leonidas did not deny it. I have done what was necessary to protect my kingdom and my people. Yes, I have been ruthless. Yes, I have killed when diplomacy failed. But every action I have taken, every harsh decision I have made, has been in service of a greater peace. He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his intense gaze. But I need you to understand something, Scarlet. The man the world sees, the warrior king who shows no mercy, that is real. That is a part of me. But it is not all of me. With you, I can be more. I can be softer. Because you make me feel safe enough to lower my guard, to show the parts of myself I have kept hidden for so long. I am not afraid of your strength, she assured him. I have seen enough weakness disguised as cruelty to know the difference. Your strength is real, but so is your kindness. At least the kindness you show to me. And I will always show you kindness, Scarlet. Always. His voice was a vow. You will never have to fear me, never have to doubt my devotion to you. In a world full of enemies and challenges, you will always be my sanctuary, my peace. Scarlet believed him. How could she not, when every action he took proved the truth of his words? He was patient with her fears, gentle with her healing wounds, both physical and emotional. When nightmares woke her in the middle of the night, gasping and crying, he was there immediately, holding her, whispering reassurances, chasing away the demons of her past with his steady presence. And when they encountered a group of rogue wolves on the road, wolves who thought to challenge the Alpha King and steal from his party, Scarlet saw the other side of Leonidas in action. He was terrifying. He shifted partially, his form growing larger, more monstrous, his eyes glowing with savage fury. He moved with brutal efficiency, taking down 3 rogues before they could even react. His claws tore through flesh, his strength overwhelming. And his roar shook the very ground beneath their feet. The fight was over in minutes, the surviving rogues fleeing in terror, leaving their wounded behind. And then, as if a switch had been flipped, Leonidas turned back to Scarlet, his form returning to normal, his eyes clearing. He crossed to her, ignoring the blood staining his hands and arms, his only concern whether she had been frightened by the violence. Are you all right? Did any of them get close to you? Scarlet stared at him, this contradiction of a man, and slowly shook her head. I am fine. You protected me. Always. He cupped her face with blood-stained hands, oblivious to the mess. I will always protect you." And in that moment, Scarlet understood something fundamental about the man she was bound to. He was violence and tenderness, wrath and devotion. He could destroy his enemies without hesitation, then turn and hold her with hands that shook with the effort to be gentle. He was exactly what she needed, a protector fierce enough to keep her safe and loving enough to heal her battered soul. "I am not afraid of you," she told him, echoing his words from their first meeting. "I never will be." Relief flooded his features, and he kissed her fiercely, claiming her mouth with a passion that stole her breath. When he finally released her, they were both trembling. The rest of the journey passed in a haze of growing intimacy and deepening connection. Leonidas taught Scarlet to ride her own horse, his patience endless as she learned. She taught him about the healing herbs she knew, pointing them out along the roadside, explaining their properties. They shared meals, shared stories, shared long silences that were more intimate than words. And through it all, Leonidas remained steadfastly devoted to taking things at her pace. He wanted her. The evidence of that was unmistakable in the tension that radiated from him when they were close, in the hunger in his eyes when he watched her. But he never pushed, never demanded more than she was ready to give. Scarlet fell more in love with him every day. One evening, as they camped beneath a canopy of stars, Scarlet turned to Leonidas with a question that had been haunting her. "Why are you so different with me?" she asked, nestled against his side, his arm around her shoulders. "I have heard the stories. They say you are ruthless, that you show no mercy to your enemies." Leonidas was quiet for a moment, his fingers absently stroking her hair. "Because you are not my enemy, Scarlet. You are my heart. The world sees the king they need, the warrior who will protect them, who will make the hard decisions and bear the weight of leadership. But you deserve to see the man beneath the crown, the one who has been waiting his entire life for you without even knowing it." He turned to face her fully, his expression intense. "I am not a gentle man, Scarlet. I cannot promise that I will always say the right thing or that I will not be overprotective or possessive. My wolf wants to lock you away where nothing can ever hurt you again. But I can promise that I will never, ever make you feel less than you are. I will never shame you or belittle you or make you doubt your worth." Scarlet reached up to touch his face, her small hand resting against his bearded cheek. "I do not need you to be gentle all the time. I need you to be real. And you are. You are more real than anyone I have ever known. Then be real with me too. Tell me what you want, Scarlet. Tell me what you dream of." She was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I dream of a home where I am wanted. I dream of waking up without fear. I dream of a family someday, if the curse—" "There is no curse," he interrupted gently but firmly. "There is only a blessing you have not yet learned to wield. And when you are ready, when you feel safe enough to try, I will be there with you every step of the way." Scarlet felt tears prick her eyes again, but they were good tears, healing tears. "You make me believe things I never thought possible." "Good. Because I believe in you, Scarlet Grimrose. I believe in us." He lowered his head slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, but she did not. Instead, she rose to meet him, her lips touching his in a kiss that was gentle and exploratory, a question and an answer all at once. Leonidas groaned softly, his hand cupping the back of her head, deepening the kiss, but keeping his passion in check. He wanted to devour her, to claim her fully, but he would not rush this, would not push her beyond what she was ready for. This moment was hers to control, her choice to make. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Scarlet rested her forehead against his chest, listening to the thundering of his heart. "I am afraid," she admitted, "afraid that this is a dream and I will wake up back in that square, alone and hated. Then I will simply have to prove to you every single day that this is real." Leonidas pressed a kiss to the top of her head. I am a patient man when it comes to things that matter, Scarlet. And you matter more than anything. They reached the capital city of Silvermere 3 weeks later, and Scarlet was overwhelmed by its grandeur. Towering walls of white stone rose against the sky, and within them, a city buzzed with life and energy. Wolves of all ranks moved through the streets. Merchants hawked their wares. Children played in the squares. It was everything the Grimwood Pack was not. It was vibrant and alive and utterly breathtaking. This is your home now, Leonidas told her, watching her take it all in with barely contained delight. These are your people. Our people, she corrected softly, and the smile he gave her was radiant. The castle itself was magnificent, all soaring towers and gleaming spires. But Scarlet found herself most drawn to the gardens, lush and green even in the autumn chill. Ancient oak trees provided shade over winding paths, and flowers she had never seen before bloomed in carefully tended beds. There was a fountain in the center, carved from white marble, depicting Selene in her wolf form. It is beautiful, Scarlet breathed, turning in a slow circle to take it all in. It is yours, Leonidas replied. All of it. Everything I have, everything I am, it belongs to you now. The court's reaction to Scarlet was mixed. Most were curious, intrigued by the white-haired Omega who had captured their king's heart. Some were welcoming, offering bows and words of respect. But others were wary, whispering behind their hands about curses and bad omens. Leonidas dealt with the latter swiftly and decisively. At the first court gathering Scarlet attended, standing beside him on the dais, he made his position crystal clear. This is Scarlet Grimrose, my chosen mate and your future queen. She is blessed by Selene herself, a healer of extraordinary gift, and more importantly, she is mine. Anyone who treats her with anything less than the respect she deserves will find themselves explaining their discourtesy to me personally. And I assure you, that is a conversation you do not want to have. The menace in his voice was unmistakable, and the whispers stopped immediately. After the gathering, in the privacy of their shared chambers, Scarlet turned to him with a mixture of gratitude and concern. You did not have to threaten them on my behalf. Yes, I did. Leonidas was unlacing his formal tunic, his movements sharp with residual anger. I will not tolerate anyone disrespecting you, Scarlet. You are my mate. That makes you untouchable. She crossed to him, placing her hands on his chest, feeling his heart thundering beneath her palms. I know you want to protect me, and I love you for it. But I need to earn their respect myself. I cannot hide behind your threats forever. He caught her hands, holding them against his heart. You do not need to earn anything. You deserve respect simply by existing. But, he sighed, seeing the determination in her silver eyes, if you wish to prove yourself, I will not stop you. Just know that I will be watching, and if anyone steps out of line, you will tear them apart with your bare hands. I know. She smiled up at him. You are very predictable, my love. He growled playfully and pulled her close, nuzzling into her neck. Only with you. With everyone else, I am a paragon of unpredictability. Scarlet laughed, the sound filling the room with warmth, and Leonidas thought, not for the first time, that he would do anything, sacrifice anything, to keep that laugh in his life. It was in those gardens that she met Lyria, the castle's head healer, a kind woman with warm brown eyes and gentle hands. Lyria took one look at the white-haired Omega and immediately saw past the surface to the pain beneath. Come, child. Let me teach you about the herbs and plants. I think you have a healer's heart, and so Scarlet found her purpose. Under Lyria's tutelage, she learned the properties of every plant in the garden, learned how to brew tinctures and poultices, how to set bones, and ease pain. Her grandmother's revelation about being a moonchild proved true. Scarlet had a gift for healing, an intuitive understanding of how to help others that went beyond simple knowledge. She would spend hours in the healing ward, her hands glowing with soft silver light as she worked, easing fevers, closing wounds, drawing poison from infected injuries. The wolves who came to her initially out of curiosity soon returned out of genuine need and gratitude. She had a way of making everyone feel heard, feel valued, regardless of their rank or status. Word of her abilities spread quickly, and within weeks, wolves were traveling from all corners of the kingdom to seek her aid. And Scarlet, who had spent her life being blamed for suffering, found profound joy in alleviating it. Leonidas watched her transformation with pride that bordered on awe. She was blooming before his eyes, growing stronger, more confident, more radiant with each passing day. The frightened, battered girl he had found in that square was still there, buried deep. But now she was surrounded by layers of strength and purpose and genuine happiness. He made it his mission to support her in every way possible. He had the healing ward expanded, brought in rare herbs and medical texts from across the realm, hired additional staff to assist her. And every evening, no matter how busy his day had been with matters of state, he would find her in the ward and escort her back to their chambers, listening as she told him about her patients, her discoveries, her small triumphs. One evening, about 2 months after their arrival, Scarlet was treating a young pup who had broken his arm in a fall. The child was crying, frightened by the pain and the unfamiliar surroundings. Scarlet knelt before him, her voice soft and soothing. "I know it hurts, little one, but I am going to make it better, I promise. Can you be brave for me?" The pup sniffled and nodded, and Scarlet placed her hands on his arm, her healing light flowing into him. Within minutes, the bone had knit, the pain had faded, and the child was staring at her with wide, awed eyes. "You are an angel," he whispered, "like in the stories." Scarlet smiled and ruffled his hair. "No angel, just a healer. Now go. Your mother's waiting for you." After the child left, Scarlet found Leonidas leaning against the doorway, watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. "How long have you been there?" "Long enough." He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. "Long enough to see you work a miracle. Long enough to fall even more in love with you, if such a thing is possible." Scarlet nestled against his chest, breathing in his comforting scent. "It is not a miracle. It is just healing. It is a gift, Scarlet, and you share it so freely, with such compassion. Do you know how extraordinary you are?" She pulled back to look up at him. "I am only extraordinary because you make me feel that way. Before you, I was nothing." "No." His voice was firm. "You were always extraordinary. You just needed someone to help you see it. And now that you do, there is no limit to what you can accomplish." He kissed her then, deep and thorough, and when they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I have a gift for you." "You give me gifts every day," she protested. "The flowers, the books, the—" "This is different. Come with me." He led her out of the healing ward and through the castle, up a winding staircase she had never climbed before. At the top was a door, and when Leonidas opened it, Scarlet gasped. It was a library, but not just any library. The room was circular, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the kingdom. But it was the shelves that stole her breath, shelves upon shelves filled with books, more books than she had ever seen in her life. "I know you never learned to read properly," Leonidas said quietly. "The pack that raised you denied you education along with everything else. So I thought, I would teach you. Every evening, if you wish it, we can sit here together, and I will help you discover the worlds that exist in these pages." Scarlet could not speak, could not find words adequate to express the emotion flooding through her. So instead, she simply threw her arms around him and held on, her tears soaking into his shirt. "Thank you," she finally managed. "Thank you for seeing me, for knowing what I need before I even know myself." Leonidas held her tightly, his chin resting on top of her head. "Always, Scarlet. I will always see you. I will always know you. Because you are half of my soul, and souls do not forget each other." And so they added another ritual to their evenings. After dinner, they would climb to their library, and Leonidas would teach Scarlet to read. He was patient, encouraging, never making her feel foolish for struggling with words that came easily to others. And Scarlet was an eager student, hungry for knowledge after years of being denied it. They would sit together on the plush sofa by the window, Scarlet tucked under Leonidas's arm, a book open on her lap. His deep voice would rumble through his chest as he read to her, one finger following the words so she could connect the sounds to the letters. And gradually, painstakingly, Scarlet began to read on her own. The first time she read an entire page without help. Leonidas was so proud he picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like children. "I did it," she exclaimed, her face flushed with triumph. "I actually did it. You did. And this is just the beginning, my brilliant mate. Soon you will be reading treaties and histories and poetry." Scarlet wrinkled her nose. "Perhaps not the treaties. Those sound dreadfully boring." Leonidas laughed, the sound rich and warm. "Fair enough. But the poetry. Definitely the poetry. There are centuries of love poems in here, written by wolves who felt for their mates what I feel for you. I want you to read them, to know that our love, as extraordinary as it feels, is part of something ancient and enduring. These quiet moments, these evenings of learning and laughter and gentle affection, became Scarlet's favorite part of each day. More than the healing, more than the gardens, more than anything else, she treasured this time alone with Leonidas, when they could simply be Scarlet and Leonidas, not the future queen and the Alpha King. But not everyone was pleased with Scarlet's presence. There were those in court who believed the Alpha King should have chosen a mate from one of the powerful Alpha families, someone who could bring political alliances and military strength. The fact that he had chosen an Omega, and a white-haired one at that, struck them as weakness. One such wolf was Dante Ironjaw, a high-ranking Alpha who had long harbored ambitions of marrying his daughter to the king. He waited until Leonidas was away handling a border dispute, then made his move. Scarlet was in the healing ward when Dante cornered her, his face twisted with contempt. "You think you belong here?" He sneered. "You are nothing but a cursed Omega who got lucky. The king will tire of you eventually, and when he does, you will be cast out like the trash you are." Scarlet felt the old fear rising, the old instinct to cower and accept the verbal abuse, but something had changed in her. She had changed, and she refused to be that frightened girl anymore. She lifted her chin, meeting Dante's glare with her own steady gaze. "I am not cursed. I am blessed. And I am exactly where I belong, as the king's chosen mate. If you have issue with that, I suggest you take it up with him when he returns, though I would not recommend it." Dante's face purpled with rage. "You dare speak to me that way? You who are barely worth the dirt beneath my feet?" He grabbed her arm, his grip bruising, and Scarlet cried out in pain. But before she could react further, before Dante could escalate his assault, a roar shook the very foundations of the castle. Leonidas had returned early, drawn by an inexplicable unease that turned out to be the mate bond warning him of Scarlet's distress. What he found when he burst into the healing ward was Dante with his hands on Scarlet, and the sight triggered something primal and violent in the Alpha King. He crossed the distance in a blur of motion, his hand closing around Dante's throat, lifting the larger man off his feet with terrifying ease. His eyes had gone completely black, his wolf surging to the surface, demanding blood for the transgression against their mate. "You touched her." His voice was barely human, a guttural snarl that promised death. "You put your hands on what is mine." Dante clawed at Leonidas's grip, gasping for air, terror flooding his face. Your Majesty, please. Leonidas. Scarlet's voice cut through the red haze of his rage. Leonidas, please. I am all right. Please do not do this. It was only her voice, only the desperate plea in it, that pulled him back from the edge. He released Dante, letting him crumple to the floor, gasping and coughing. Get out of my sight. The command was absolute. Leave this city tonight. If I ever see you within my borders again, I will tear you apart with my bare hands. Do you understand? Dante nodded frantically and fled, stumbling over his own feet in his haste to escape. Leonidas turned to Scarlet, and his expression transformed instantly from wrathful king to concerned mate. He crossed to her, his hands gentle as they took her arm, examining the bruises already forming on her pale skin. Did he hurt you? His voice was soft now, but still edged with barely controlled violence. Tell me the truth, Scarlet. She shook her head, even as tears spilled down her cheeks. Not really. He said terrible things, and I tried to be strong, but you were strong. Leonidas cupped her face in his hands, his amber eyes burning into hers. You stood up to him. You defended yourself and your place here. I am so proud of you. But you had to come save me again. I am always causing you trouble. No. His tone was fierce. You are never trouble, and I will always come for you, Scarlet. Always. I do not care if I have to cross oceans or tear down mountains. You are mine to protect, and I take that responsibility seriously. He pulled her into his arms, holding her close, breathing in her scent to calm his still raging wolf. I am sorry I was not here sooner. I am sorry you had to face that alone. Scarlet wrapped her arms around his waist, her face pressed against his chest. You came when I needed you. That is what matters. They stood like that for a long time, drawing comfort from each other's presence. And once again, Scarlet marveled at the duality of this man who held her so gently while being capable of such savage violence. That night, Leonidas announced their formal bonding ceremony would take place at the next full moon, just 2 weeks away. He was done waiting, done giving others the opportunity to question Scarlet's place at his side. She would be his queen, his mate, his equal in all things, and the kingdom would recognize her as such. The preparations began immediately, and Scarlet found herself swept up in a whirlwind of fittings and meetings and planning. Lyria and her grandmother were by her side constantly, offering support and guidance. And slowly, Scarlet began to believe that she truly deserved this happiness. But the night before the ceremony, alone in her chambers, doubt crept back in. She stood at the window, looking out over the moonlit gardens, and whispered a prayer to Selene, the moon goddess. If I am truly cursed, if I am truly meant to bring only suffering, please do not let me hurt him. Take me instead, but spare Leonidas. You are speaking nonsense again. Scarlet spun to find Leonidas standing in the doorway of her chamber, his expression a mixture of exasperation and tenderness. He closed the door behind him and crossed to her, his long hair loose around his shoulders, his feet bare beneath his sleeping clothes. I thought we had moved past this, he said, pulling her into his arms. I thought you understood that there is no curse. Scarlet clung to him, breathing in his comforting scent. I know you believe that. But tomorrow we complete the bond, Leonidas. Tomorrow we tie our souls together. And if I am wrong, if the curse is real, then you will suffer for choosing me. Leonidas tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his gaze. Then I will suffer gladly. Do you hear me, Scarlet? I would rather have one day bonded to you than 1,000 years alone. Whatever fate has in store for us, we will face it together. But what if the curse is broken? He interrupted gently. What if by completing our bond, by choosing love over fear, we shatter whatever dark magic might have been woven around you? What if your grandmother was right, and you are blessed, not cursed? What if you are exactly what we need? Scarlet wanted to believe him, wanted to have his unshakable faith. I am so afraid. I know. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. And that is all right. But do not let fear steal this from us, Scarlet. Do not let the ghosts of your past destroy our future. She looked up at him, at this magnificent, impossible man who had chosen her above all others. And she made her decision. No more running, no more doubting. Tomorrow she would stand beside him and claim her place as his mate and his queen, and whatever came after, they would face it together. The bonding ceremony was held in the castle's great hall, beneath a ceiling painted to look like the night sky, complete with a full moon rendered in silver leaf. Hundreds of wolves from across the kingdom were in attendance, all dressed in their finest, all waiting to witness their king take his mate. Scarlet walked down the aisle in a gown of white silk that seemed to flow like liquid moonlight, her white hair braided with silver thread and tiny white roses. She looked like a vision, like the embodiment of Selene herself, and more than one wolf gasped at her beauty. But Scarlet only had eyes for Leonidas, who stood at the altar in black leather and silver armor, his long hair pulled back, his beard trimmed. He looked every inch the warrior king, fierce and powerful. But when his eyes found hers, they softened with such love that she felt her heart might burst. They met in the center of the hall, and Leonidas took her hands in his touch warm and steady. The pack's shaman, an ancient wolf named Eldrick, performed the ceremony, binding their hands with a silver cord and invoking Selene's blessing. But it was the vows they spoke to each other that truly mattered. Scarlet, Leonidas began, his voice resonating through the hall. I vow to protect you with my life, to cherish you with my heart, and to stand beside you through whatever storms may come. You are my mate, my queen, and my greatest blessing. I am yours, now and forever. Leonidas, Scarlet replied, her voice trembling but clear. I vow to trust in your strength, to believe in our love, and to face the future without fear. You saw me when I was invisible, valued me when I thought myself worthless. You are my salvation, my home, and my heart's deepest wish. I am yours, now and forever. Eldrick raised his staff, calling upon the moon goddess. Selene, witness this bond and bless this union. Let these two souls be bound as one, in this life and all lives to come. A brilliant light filled the hall, emanating from Scarlet herself. Her skin glowed with an ethereal radiance, her eyes shining like twin stars, and as Leonidas marked her neck with his bite, claiming her as his mate, power surged through them both, a wave of energy so intense it drove everyone in the hall to their knees. When the light faded, Scarlet stood transformed. She was still herself, still the white-haired Omega with silver eyes, but something fundamental had shifted. The last remnants of whatever darkness had clung to her from years of being called cursed had been burned away, and in its place was pure, radiant light. The Moonchild had finally awakened. Scarlet felt it immediately, the power flowing through her veins, ancient and pure and utterly overwhelming. But Leonidas's arms were around her, his presence grounding her, keeping her from being swept away by the magnitude of what she had become. I have you, he whispered in her ear. I will always have you. The celebration that followed lasted 3 days, and by the end of it, every wolf in the kingdom knew that their queen was no cursed Omega, but a blessed child of Selene, a healer, and a source of prosperity. Over the following months, Scarlet's power manifested in ways that benefited the entire realm. Crops that had been struggling began to flourish. Illnesses that had plagued certain territories faded. Even the weather seemed to respond to her presence, bringing rain when it was needed, and sun when growth required it. But despite her power, despite her new status as queen, Scarlett remained fundamentally unchanged. She still spent her days in the healing ward, still tended to the sick and injured with her own hands, still offered kindness to those who sought her aid. And Leonidas loved her more with each passing day. Their relationship deepened, becoming not just a bond of mates, but a true partnership. Scarlett brought compassion and empathy to Leonidas's rule, tempering his sometimes harsh judgment with mercy. And Leonidas gave Scarlett the confidence and security she needed to fully embrace her power, his unwavering belief in her becoming the foundation upon which she built her new life. At night, alone in their chambers, they would lay together, and Leonidas would trace the mark on her neck, the evidence of their bond, with reverent fingers. "Do you remember when you told me you did not deserve love?" he asked one such night, his body curled protectively around hers. Scarlett nodded against his chest. "I was wrong. You have shown me that every day. You were not wrong to feel that way, not given what you had experienced. But you were wrong about what you deserved." He tilted her chin up, his amber eyes intense. "You deserve every good thing this world has to offer, Scarlett. And I intend to spend the rest of my life making sure you receive it." She kissed him then, pouring all her love and gratitude into the gesture. And he responded with the controlled passion that always marked their intimate moments, fierce and tender all at once. A year after their bonding, Scarlett discovered she was with child. The news sent Leonidas into a protective frenzy that would have been amusing if it had not been so overwhelming. He barely let her out of his sight, growled at anyone who came too close, and insisted she rest constantly. Scarlett, with her newfound confidence, simply laughed at his antics and ignored most of his more ridiculous demands, much to the amusement of the court. "I am not fragile," she told him after he had forbidden her from walking to the healing ward. "I am pregnant, not dying. You are carrying my child. Our child." Leonidas's hand rested possessively on her still flat stomach. "I will not take any chances with either of your safety." "Then you are in for a very long pregnancy, my love, because I have no intention of spending the next months locked in this room." It became a dance between them, his protectiveness and her independence. And through it all, their love only grew stronger. When Scarlett went into labor on a stormy winter night, Leonidas refused to leave her side, holding her hand through every contraction, wiping her brow, offering whispered encouragements and endearments. And when the first cry of their firstborn son filled the air, followed quickly by a second, and then a third, and a fourth, Leonidas wept openly, his tears falling into Scarlett's white hair, as he held her and their 4 perfect pups. 4. She laughed through her exhaustion. "We have 4 sons, Leonidas. 4 blessings," he corrected, looking down at the squirming bundles in her arms. 4 perfect blessings from my perfect mate. The boys were named that night. Arius, the eldest by mere minutes, with his father's black hair and his mother's silver eyes. Calum, fair-haired like his mother, but with his father's amber gaze. Theron, with black hair and amber eyes, fierce even as a newborn. And Orion, the youngest, with white blonde hair and eyes that shifted between silver and gold depending on the light. They were beautiful, these 4 sons, and as Scarlett watched Leonidas hold each one, his massive hands cradling their tiny bodies with such impossible gentleness, she felt a completeness she had never imagined possible. "I love you," she told him, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for saving me." Leonidas looked up from the baby in his arms, his expression so full of love it took her breath away. "No, Scarlett. Thank you for saving me. You showed me that there is more to strength than violence, more to power than dominance. You taught me how to love, and in doing so, you made me truly whole." He leaned over to kiss her, careful not to disturb the babies nestled between them. "We saved each other, my heart. And we will spend the rest of our days proving that love, true love, can overcome any curse, any obstacle, any challenge." Years passed, and the kingdom prospered under their joint rule. The four princes grew strong and healthy, each displaying unique talents and personalities, each adored by both their parents and the pack. Scarlet's healing center became renowned throughout all the territories, a place where any wolf could come for aid regardless of rank or origin. She trained other healers, passing on her knowledge and her gift, ensuring that her legacy would continue long after she was gone. And Leonidas, the fierce Alpha King, remained exactly what he had always been to his people: a warrior, a protector, a strong and sometimes ruthless leader. But to Scarlet, to his mate, he was always gentle, always devoted, always the man who had seen past a curse that never existed to the blessing beneath. On their 10th anniversary, Scarlet stood in the castle gardens, watching her sons play, and reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From a girl blamed for every misfortune, beaten and reviled by her own pack, to a queen, beloved by an entire kingdom. From someone who believed she was cursed and unworthy of love to a woman who knew, beyond any shadow of doubt, that she was cherished beyond measure. Strong arms wrapped around her waist from behind, and Leonidas's chin came to rest on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about, my love?" Scarlet leaned back into his embrace, watching as Arius chased Calum around a fountain while Theron and Orion engaged in a mock battle with sticks. "I am thinking about how far we have come. About how different my life might have been if you had not walked into that square 10 years ago." Leonidas tightened his hold on her. "I would have found you eventually. Fate would not have allowed any other outcome. We were always meant for each other, Scarlet. The moon goddess herself ordained it. Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "Choosing an Omega as your mate? Taking on the burden of my past?" He turned her in his arms so she faced him, his amber eyes blazing with intensity. "Never. Not once. Not for a single moment. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Scarlet Grimrose Moonbane. You and our sons are my greatest triumph, greater than any battle I have won, any territory I have conquered." He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. "You were blamed for every misfortune in your pack, unaware that the Alpha King had fallen in love with your heart, with your strength, with the beautiful soul that refused to be broken no matter how hard they tried. And I will spend every day of my life grateful that I found you, that I claimed you, that you chose to love me back." Scarlet kissed him then, soft and sweet, a kiss full of promise and devotion. "I would choose you 1,000 times over, in 1,000 different lifetimes. You are my home, Leonidas. You always will be." Their sons noticed them and came running, 4 bundles of energy and joy demanding their parents' attention. And Leonidas and Scarlet laughed as they were surrounded, their family complete and perfect and utterly blessed. That night, as Scarlet lay in bed with Leonidas's arms around her, she sent one final prayer to Selene. But this time it was not a plea for mercy or a desperate hope that the curse would not manifest. This time, it was a prayer of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered into the darkness. "Thank you for the man who saved me. Thank you for the children who fill my days with joy. Thank you for showing me that I was never cursed, only waiting for the right moment to bloom. Thank you for my life, my love, my everything." Beside her, Leonidas stirred, his arms tightening around her. "I love you, Scarlet. And I love you, my fierce king, my gentle warrior, my heart." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms, their souls bound together by a bond that had shattered every curse, overcome every obstacle, and proved that true love, the kind that sees past fear and embraces possibility, is the most powerful magic of all. The white-haired Omega who had been blamed for every misfortune had become a queen beloved by all, a healer revered throughout the lands, and most importantly, a woman who knew her own worth, who understood that she had never been cursed, only waiting for the right person to help her see the blessing she had always been. And the Alpha King, the man feared by enemies and respected by all, had found in her something he had not even known he was searching for. Not just a mate, not just a queen, but a partner, a soul twin, the other half of himself that made him complete. Together, they had built a kingdom of prosperity and peace. Together, they had raised 4 strong sons who would carry on their legacy. Together, they had proven that love, true and unconditional, could heal even the deepest wounds, could overcome even the darkest past. The story of Scarlet Grimrose and Leonidas Moonbane became legend, told around fires and whispered by young wolves dreaming of their own mates. It was a story of redemption and transformation, of strength found in gentleness and power discovered in vulnerability. It was a story that proved that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as curses, and sometimes the person everyone dismisses becomes exactly what the world needs most. It was, quite simply, a love story for the ages, written in moonlight and sealed with unbreakable bonds. And they lived, truly and completely, in a happiness they had fought for, earned, and would cherish for all their days, proving that even hearts broken by the cruelest circumstances could be mended by the gentlest love. Their story was complete, their journey from pain to joy finished, but their love would continue, eternal and unshakable, a testament to the power of choosing hope over despair, love over fear, and always, always, believing that everyone deserves a second chance, especially those the world has given up on. Scarlet Grimrose Moonbane had been blamed for every misfortune in her pack, unaware that the Alpha King had fallen in love with her heart, and in the end, that love had saved them both, transformed them both, and given them a life more beautiful than either had dared to dream possible. This was their story. This was their truth. This was their forever. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this beautiful love story. Let us know what you thought of this tale full of emotions and surprises. Tell us your name, where you're watching from, and rate this story from 0 to 10 if it touched your heart. And if you enjoyed the plot, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the amazing new stories coming soon. See you next time.